Okay, Kenny Boa- oh, Bowekaty has been a long-time archaeologist for the Pueblo of Zuni, which has many levels of cultural resource positions. He is part of the Lieutenant Society, a division of their Zuni religion, a governing body of the Zuni hierarchy. Currently, Kenny is the lead tour guide for the Zuni Tourism and Visitor Center in Zuni, New Mexico. And with that, I'll start your slideshow and turn it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is, I said, Kenny Bowekaty. Just a little introduction to myself. I was a longtime archaeologist, of course, studying my own history and, of course, the indigenous history of the Southwest. And then about 10 years ago, I transitioned out of the archaeological department and started a new career by becoming the lead tour guide for the Pueblo of Zuni. And as I engaged in the tourism industry, I found it pretty much pleasing to what I do. And so as Richard kind of introduced me here, I come from a governing body of our religious hierarchy, which, of course, a lot of this governing body with my duties is to take care of some of the leaders that we have that oversee the ceremonial dances that we still engage in. And then, of course, as I move further into the tourism industry, I found many questions about who we are as a people and where we come from and what our objectives as a indigenous tribe is. And so I turned to my brothers of the hierarchy to see if I could translate what is a 6-hour long prayer. That, of course, I took about a good 2 hours of that in the beginning and now translated into what is now the Zuni worldview cosmology. And I've done a few of these slideshows, of course, mainly during the pandemic when the Pueblo of Zuni shut down under this crisis. And then, of course, wanting to do and still keep engaged in the tourism industry. This is where I then really got into bringing out what is a slideshow. And this slideshow kind of now, instead of me just talking about, all of these formalities of our history, I get to use slides to kind of give people a perspective of who we are as a people. And so, of course, with that, I met Richard about, let's say about a year ago.
Almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago. And so, as I told him a lot about this, and now I'm here to kind of present this to you folks here. So I'll just go ahead and begin here. As I said, this is a coming from a 6-hour long prayer, which at the end, it gives every human and life aspect to the blessings of longevity, prosperity, and all the provisions of a healthy and wealthy life. And of course, at the end of this in seemingly to who we are as a people will also be granted to you. And so I'll just begin here with what is our terms of who we are as a people. We are a lunar following tribe. And with this, our yearly calendar is based upon the following of the full moon and the new moon. The new moon in the beginning of the year, and then after the summer solstice, the full moon comes into play. And as a lunar following tribe, this is where our calendar year is about 3 weeks shy of the world calendar. And of course, under these provisions of our year, this is where we, as a Zuni people, of course, now believes in what is father-son. But of course, we, as a tribe, in every prayer that we have, father-son is the all-time creator of life. And Father Son is like a sibling to many other sons in this oblivious world of space as we know it. And like a child in a family or a sibling, he was given his own room to create what would be, of course, his house or his own room to develop what is the children or of his own. And this is where, wanting to create life in his house, he basically created what are the planetary systems. This is where, of course, the planets in our universe are his stillborn children, born of gases and elements that were non-life producing. This is where Father Son, still wanting to incorporate life, creates two sister planets, which are that of Venus and Mother Earth. And as Venus is born of ice, she would become an implementary twilight figure known as the morning star. And this is where, of course, Mother Earth will also be born of Father Son's true element, that of fire. Having a meteor be lit ablaze, she will be created by Father Son through the act of fire. And as Venus also would become this twilight, the polar star of what is the rotation of Mother Earth becomes what is the North Star. These would be the implementary figures that will be sent into Mother Earth's fiery atmosphere. And of course, these twilights will also be the main players to create the children of light or the children of Mother Earth. And these twilights will be sent into the surface of Mother Earth on several occasions of events. And as, of course, these twilights are now will be born, this is where Mother Earth starts to cultivate in this thermoristic atmosphere where she is born of fire. In her early infant life, she is born of fire, where her atmosphere is filled with thermoristic attributes, lava as rivers, and of course, oceans in the atmosphere filled with thermoristic formulations. And this is where the two stars are now sent in to Mother Earth by Father Son. They would enter in through what we proclaim in the state of Arizona, the Grand Canyon, our place of origin. A place called Ribbon Falls is where our debut and emergence will take place millions of years. But before this time, these two twilights will enter in through Mother Earth's thermoristic atmosphere. Through Ribbon Falls, they will enter in through this tunnel that exerts into Mother Earth for miles and miles, proclaiming to enter into three subsurface worlds, the world of the wind and the world of the water. And then here in this pitch black, dark environment tomb, given the name of residue of fire, this is where the two twilights will enter in through the world of the suit. In this dark environment tomb, they would submerge waist to chest deep waters inside this tomb. And together they will place their hands within the water and extract out this black, sulfuristic smell of mud and clay. Together, as seemingly as the North Star responsible for the male, the morning star responsible for the female, they will create these reptilic-like figures of what they will only call the children of Mother Earth. From this black muck of mud, they will create these reptilic salamander-like figures. And as they let them go, they will slither out of their hands, spawning into life, born with webbed hands and feet and scales and tails, growing no larger than the length of their palms. 4 days will be utilized to create what is the children of Mother Earth. At the end of the 4 days, they will create what is from yet more of this black mug of mud, the heart of Mother Earth. They will incorporate life into it. And this is where they would hand this heart off to the salamander children. As they hand off this heart of Mother Earth, this is where this prophecy that was given to the children of Mother Earth, in which we still abide by, where as they handed it off this heart, this is where they stated that upon the receivement of the heart of your mother today, you will come out of this hole one day, and you will walk the chest of Mother Earth, and you will find the center. Upon finding the center, you will place this heart there. If in the proper area, you and Mother Earth will cultivate throughout eternity in unison, in this place you will call Halona Itiwana. This is the name of our village today in the Pueblo of Zuni. Halona Itiwana basically translate to the place of red ants in the middle of Mother Earth's chest. This will be an eternal habitation of platform and an area where you will cultivate throughout eternity in unison, practicing this shamanistic religion, which will portray ancient deity gods. And here is where, of course, as Mother Earth would basically now evolutionize into this living world, there will be an inner exodus by these salamander children from what is proclaimed by the two star beings, from the world of the suit, from the world of the water, into the world of the wind. It will be at the back end of the Triassic era after Mother Earth cultivates into her living planet, where the ecosystem is now developed and the life on Earth is now habitated by the great beast of the world, the dinosaur. It will be at the brink end of the dinosaur era, in which we will make this debut in what they also proclaimed and perceived was the fourth world of Mother Earth, the daylight world. Here in the daylight world, we would enter into this earth by out of what is the time era. At the very brink end, before the dinosaur is eliminated, we will make this debut in this salamander configuration, bringing out what is the heart of Mother Earth and many implementary figures that will be utilized to search for the middle place of Mother Earth. Here in what will be Ribbon Falls out of the Grand Canyon, we will make this debut into this world of Mother Earth, daylight world. And here in this migration from what is Ribbon Falls will travel through the Grand Canyon corridor, through this salamander children, bringing the heart of Mother Earth out. They will use the Grand Canyon corridor. They will travel through much of the corridor and intercept what is the Little Colorado River. At the confluence of the Little Colorado River, they will then turn to the Colorado River and migrate what is a northwest to southeast direction over what is the course of the state of Arizona. Here, as they follow through the Grand Canyon corridor, you will see a map on these tributaries that will be utilized to come to what is the state or the small town of St. John's, Arizona. Here in this small town of what is now known as St. John's, Arizona, will become an eternal spiritual stay in what we designate as our heaven on earth. From the state of Arizona, or the city or the town of St. John's, we will be then turned north to what is Hardscrabble Wash. While we will be en route from St. John's to Hardscrabble Wash, this would now hundreds of years would elapse. In this area, our people, the salamander ancestor, will come. Mother Earth will come to her own conclusion that the children are making their way to what we call Hardscrabble Wash as Hanlipinke. Here, Hanlipinke will be an evolutionizing event for the children of Mother Earth, As we are entering into Hardscrabble Wash by way of St. John's, Mother Earth turns to Father Son. Knowing that her children are making their way to Hardscrabble Wash, she would turn to Father Son and request him to shower her with hundreds, if not thousands, of meteors that will impact all over the world. As these impacts now land on the surface of Mother Earth, it creates a dark, gloomy world where the dinosaur would also be obliterated from the surface. The closest impact here would be Winslow, Arizona, the great meteor crater of the Southwest. In addition to hundreds of impacts all over the world, creating this dark, gloomy atmosphere, we would enter in to what is Hardscrabble Wash. Growing no larger than the length of the human palm, these salamander ancestors will survive the impact. They will reach Hardscrabble Wash with the heart of Mother Earth. They will come here to Hardscrabble Wash. The two stars will enter in through now this dark, gloomy world. They would enter in through Mother Earth's surface, now enter in and encountering the children at Hardscrabble Wash. They will bring what is these implements of projectile point flints. The two stars coming in will bring two eggs, one elaborate in color, and the other a dull bleak egg, both with projectile point flints in their hands. They will encounter their salamander children. This is where the North Star would line up what is the male faction of the salamander ancestor. Using their projectile point flints, the morning star will line up the female fraction of what is these reptilic ancestors. They will create what is the human figure by cutting out the webbed hands and feet, peeling off the scales and cutting off the tails, stepping on their feet and grabbing their heads, and like clay, remodify the salamander children into this human figure. Many will be reformulated over the course of 4 days. At the end of the fourth day, they will have this huge group of now newly configured children. They would now affiliate the children in groups of people. Here, there will be 3 groups formed. The 2 stars will take half of these children and push them to the side, pick up the heart of Mother Earth, and this is where they handed the heart off to what they call the Ashiwi. This is who we are as the Zuni tribe. Our more original name is the Ashiwi. Here they gave them the heart of Mother Earth, and they told them, you will only go so far to the east, and you will settle here in a place called Hawiku Valley. And as they gave the heart off to the children of the Ashiwi, they turned to the last half of group of people, unaffiliated, and divided them in 2. The North Star creates what is our brethren fraction of the winter people. These are small conglomerate groups of what will be Hopi, Laguna, Acoma, Cochiti, Santo Domingo, Isleta, Taos, Wallapai, Havasupai. They will basically be put in this group called the winter people. The morning star will conglomerate also small factions of people from this third tertiary brethren known as the summer people. These will be the likes of Magion, Hohokam, Casas Grande, Salado, San Pedro, indigenous valley people, and what we also proclaim might be the Mayans, Aztecs, and possibly the Incas. Created in this tertiary group, they are given straws to draw. 2 small bands of Zuni from the Ashiwi group are taken and appointed to the winter and the summer people. These groups are given straws to draw, the longest straw picking one of these 2 eggs that are now implemented on the ground. It will be that of the winter people that pick the longest straw. They are given first pick at these 2 eggs. They will basically pick the bright, colorful egg. The summer people are given the dull, bleak egg. Together, they are told to simultaneously crack the shell. as they crack the shell out of these two eggs. For the winter people, a black crow comes flying out. They are told, follow the black crow in search of the center place of Mother Earth's chest. For the summer people, they crack their shell from this dog-leaf egg, and a beautiful parrot macaw comes flying out. Fly south. Like the winter people, they are told to follow the parrot macaw in search of the center. This is where the disbursement of the people would then begin. But before both parties would disperse, they are told, if either one of you groups find the middle place of Mother Earth's chest, you must come back here, somewhere in this general area. Your brothers of the Ashui will be here with the heart of Mother Earth, waiting for this day for one of you groups to come in and now confirm and designate the middle place of Mother Earth. From here, we will all go to what will be this place of an eternal habitational stay. The image that you see is an image that, of course, is in our museum. This is at what is now Diablo Canyon outside of Flagstaff, Arizona. And of course, the first split of people is here. From here, the summer people, their track of searching for the middle place keeps a continuous track all the way to what will be Mexico, the country of Mexico. This is why we proclaim what we also stated as Mayans, Aztecs, and possibly the Incas that will continue on. We call these the people that went to the everlasting sun, never to return. As this great winter people disperse out north to northeast, they will reach far as the San Juan Basin area, over the Rocky Mountains, creating places like Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon. Here is where, of course, people, as they veer off and settle in places like Hopi, Hualapai, Havasupai, these are the first three groups that, for whatever reason, came to their own senses outside of Flagstaff, Arizona, is where they declared that maybe this middle place is somewhere near back into the Grand Canyon. As they settle, this is where, of course, this becomes this sort of now action of this search of migration. People start veering off either through their own configurations of searching for the middle place within a general area, or it could be that of exhaustion, maybe injury, or possibly death. People will start to veer off and settle in these areas, what is now looked at as the Northern Colorado Plateau. The two stars will eventually, of course, make their way back down as they gave them their implements of direction. The North Star in the Northern Hemisphere gave the people of the winter this northern burying direction. The morning star at every dusk of the morning, they gave the people their southern burying direction. Here, as places like Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde would now develop, this is where, of course, likes of Hawiku also comes in as one of the implementary settlement place for the Ashiwi, as they come in to what is now the general area of the Pueblo of Zuni. Things start to progress. Here, as many years would elapse, this return of these small bands of Zuni that would lead many people as they reach as far as over the Rockies, as past the San Pedro Indigenous Valley, they would come to their own terms of now basically, maybe we've gone too far. Maybe we've gone out of the bounds of what is the chest of Mother Earth. They will make their way back to Zuni. And here in Hawiku, they would come here as failures. No one would ever find the middle place of Mother Earth's chest. The two stars would come back to the surface of what is now Hawiku. They would come in and encounter their children now at Hawiku. This is a village 12 miles southwest of present-day Zuni. As they enter into this area, encountering their children, they told the children not to worry about not finding the center place, for we are here to help you designate where this middle place is. They created a huge insect, that of the water strider, an insect that only lands on water. 3 times as large as the earth, it hovered over the outer atmosphere, waiting for this day for the children to return. As they returned, the 2 stars also entered into the surface, now summoning this insect to land on the surface. Using the 4 major oceans, it lands on the surface of the earth. Choosing this continent, it lands, and where it lands designates the Pueblo of Zuni to be the middle place of Mother Earth's chest. This is how the middle place is founded, by these implementary star figures and this great search. Once this middle place is founded, this is where the likes of Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, Aztec ruins, what were the highlights of destinations on these great searches, would now come to an end. A message will be sent out stating that if you are still out searching for this great implementary place, eternal place of habitation, you may no longer do so, for it has been founded in the Ashiwi domain. If you are still out in the likes of what would be Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and all of these other great prehistoric villages, you may simply pack your things and go back to where you left your loved ones. Places like Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, inhabiting many affiliations of our brethren that would spread out. Getting this message would go back to Hopi, Laguna, Acoma, Cochiti, seemingly breaking down what are these prehistoric villages, baffling many scientists and archaeologists coming in, stating the question, who were these people? Where did they all of a sudden abruptly go to? This is the sort of that faction of breakdown of the search of the middle place. Once Zuni is founded, of course, this is kind of how the middle place is founded. But Zuni would not centralize as this one village only. It would have to be yet another several hundred years. The time circle of Zuni being founded, and what we know is around what is the first millennium of the ADs. After the first millennium, this is where the breakdown of these great prehistoric villages, Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and many others will break down. A movement back into their home areas, Taos, Laguna, Acoma, and Zuni would develop. As this now occurs, several hundred years will elapse. For the Ashiwi, the Pueblo of Zuni, there will be a sort of encroachment of a different affiliation. This kind of breaks away now from this great prayer of what is this how Zuni is founded. Breaking off of this history of how Zuni is founded, we step into what will be the late 1400s into the 1500s. The likes of Christopher Columbus traveling the world would designate the country of Mexico to have what are these great villages of gold. It will be an expedition of a Spanish conquistador of Andres Durantes, who owns an African slave of Estevanico Durantes, more originally known as Mustafa Zamora. Embarking on an expedition to Mexico City, this expedition of the Narvesa de Panafo will land in the Panhandle state of Florida. And here is where Estevanico, this African slave, would now determine that this is an uncharted territory of the world because of how he encountered native tribes within this area. The language that was spoken, he did not understand. A great push into what would be Mexico City would be conducted, but they would capsize. And as they capsize, they would be rescued on a small boat and taken into what is the shores of Texas. This really brings in what will be, of course, this first interaction of what is the outside world into our village of Hawiku in the year 1537. this African slave arriving to the village of Hawiku will return to Mexico City and then confirm what would be Christopher Columbus's allegations of villages of gold, but eliminate the scenario of Mexico, the country of Mexico. And this is where he would then declare that these villages of gold do exist, however, not in Mexico City, in a country far north of here, in what he calls the seven cities of Cibola. Coronado is now introduced as this conquering expedition to come into what is the Zuni domain. In the year 1540, July 7th, 1540, he arrives to Zuni, and this is where he now comes in to ensue a battle with our ancestors of the Ash of Hawiku. For 2 days, a battle will ensue with the Spanish and our ancestors. This image here, the cartoon image, depicts the entering of Coronado in our village of Hawiku. July 9th, 1540, at midday, Coronado now is right outside the doorstep of the village of Hawiku. Our ancestors who would have shot many of their arrows out, now less ammo, using rocks as ammunition. Throwing down cobbles of rocks, Coronado is struck on the head, and this is where many of his soldiers hunker over him to protect him from the onslaught of these cobbles and rocks coming in and thrown by our ancestors. By this time, our ancestors, knowing that this battle is being lost, a conch horn is blared off within the confines of the village. At the end of this conch horn sound, the fighting ends, and this is where, of course, our ancestor warriors retreat from this village, giving Coronado an opportunity to now seize the village and settle here for 4 days or for 4 months. And as this battle ensues, this is where, of course, Coronado coming in would then habitate. It will be the likes of, as he sends people off to the west and the east, our people will come up with another battle shortly after that, several months in. And as, of course, Coronado now sees himself vulnerable at his village, now submits to the Ashui. This will be the only confrontation with the Spanish that we have. Here now from 1540, about 80 to 90 years later, in the year 1625, this is where a request of a Spanish settlement would now come in the village of Hawiku. This is where the La Purísima Conception is built by the Spanish conquistadors. It will be one of 3 that will be infrastructure here. This image of our 1991 replica of our village is the overview of Our Lady of Guadalupe. 1631, it was established here. And here, of course, in the Pueblo of Zuni, this is where Our Lady of Guadalupe from 1631 to about 1730, almost 100 years of habitation will occur. And here, of course, in what is the village of Zuni, these are early images of what is Hiller coming in, showing in 1879. But of course, by what will be the year of 1693, the likes and the last real conquistador of De Vargas will come in. And this is where, as De Vargas comes in with a priest under the name of Bustamante, he will come through Hawiku, which is already abandoned. The La Purísima Conception will be burnt down in 1672 by an Apache uprising from the White Mountains. As De Vargas comes through 20 years later, this mission is already basically in shambles. He comes to Zuni, and this is where Bustamante would now habitate Our Lady of Guadalupe for about maybe 30 years, he will settle here. By what would be 1740, it will be yet another war that will ensue, which is not with the Ashawi, but with what is the British and the new settlers of America. Having to be this war, these Franciscan friars were basically intimidated by this war, fearing that it might come all the way west to these areas. They vacate the likes of Zuni, Hopi, Laguna, Acoma, many retreating back to Mexico City. But for some, they will go to what is now the state of capital of New Mexico, Santa Fe. This is where Zuni is left behind by Bustamante, and during this time, as the state Zuni, our leaders will come in and congregate in the village of Zuni, and they will consultate among themselves and go back to this prophecy that was given to them billions, if not millions of years ago in what is the confines of Ribbon Falls in the Grand Canyon. They looked at this prophecy and stated that there is yet one more conglomeration or shift that should occur, which would be the final village in which the entire children of Mother Earth will reside in. This will be the village of the Pueblo of Zuni in this state. They will go back to this prophecy and state that this finalization of conglomeration must come through. Anything from what will be the latest of 1750 to present day, the Ashiwi have now habitated under this prophecy in Halona Itiwana, living out that eternal habitational right, practicing under this religion, never really going abroad from their own jurisdiction. We will basically be here under this religion, practicing as it was 1,000 years ago under this formulation. This is how the Ashiwi come into play. In this day, we still render under a lot of these religious and esoteric and heritage formations of our religion. This is the breakdown of what is this history seen through the eyes of the Ashiwi. And of course, as we move on, and by the 1800s, this is where, after what will be the Civil War, is where Zuni is really now encountered by what is the cavalry. As by this time, the top of the 1900s, these are basically how Zuni comes to play. And in these days, Zuni still renders under all of these formulations. And this is where, of course, by using these slides, I actually help people, many people all over the world that come to Zuni in the interest of tourism and the interest of Southwestern history. This is how the Ashiwi remain here. But of course, we as a people having a lot of traditional cultural properties in the state of Arizona, I like to think that the Ashiwi are Arizonians living in New Mexico. This is our history here, given in this formality. I am the lead tour guide of the Pueblo of Zuni tourism industry, a longtime archaeologist. And of course, as Richard stated, I come from the Lieutenant Society division of our religion. And at the end of this interpretation, we as a people conducting all of our religious formulations, we would like to wish you the prosperities of longevity, prosperity, and all the provisions of a healthy and wealthy life. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. That was fantastic. I'm glad to hear the whole story.
Yeah, and this is how it is. And so, but I brought some brochures, a brochure of the tours that we provide in the Pueblo of Zuni, and then a brochure, just a general description of what Zuni is. And so for those of you who are here, you're more than welcome to take some brochures, take some extra ones for friends and family that you might want to share it with. You can also find this on our website. And then I have my business card here, which I can also give to you folks. You can take extra ones. And of course, if you want to, this interpretation, along with several others, are online. And you can actually Google my name and see other videos of archaeological tours within our area. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
I guess we have some questions here.
Yeah, sure.
Does the religion talk about or prophesize anything that'll happen in the future?
Well, these were prophecies, you know. I like to think that my great grandma was a verbally vicious person. She would often, you know, and it wasn't just me, maybe family members or cousins like that. If they were naughty in some sense or whatever, my great grandma would sit us down and actually point you out and say, because of you, one day the earth will, you know, erupt in volcanoes and earthquakes and swallow everybody up. These were the types of prophecies that our great grandparents and grandparents used to give us. But in our terms of practice, our future upon this religion, and it with these ceremonies, every ceremony as it ends, it is given that longevity, life of prosperity as well. And so we often go into our past to better our future. And so although the future is looked at as a formality of your life, it is still also looked at as a day-to-day sort of conquest among every person's soul. And so in a way, you know, our future as it is dictated under this religion is one part of our life that we often oversee for the goodness of what we do in this day. And so in due sense, yeah, it does talk about the future. Any more questions?
If you want to read up on the Zuni, what kind of books would you look for?
Well, there are many, and some go down a lot of avenues that, you know, really might be out of proportion. There's not one particular book I really like, but there's one where if I should recommend anything, there is the book that it was written by Frank Hamilton Cushion that was re-edited by an individual named Barton Wright. It is entitled The Mystic World of the Zuni. And this is where in small paragraphs, there are a lot of what I spoke about, Genesis, the twin stars, all of this is written in that book in 2 or 3 paragraphs at the most. It is an ink inscribed book. And so it's, of course, it's got some pictures in it, but it's all in black ink. But that might be the book that you might want to look into. It's, again, it's The Mystic World of the Zuni. And it is re-edited by an individual, Barton Wright. Barton Wright with a W. But it was initially written by Frank Hamilton Cushion, who was an archaeologist that came to Zuni in 1879. And he actually stayed in Zuni for about 6 years. And of course, he studied a lot of the Zuni archaeological anthropology formulations. And that is one of his, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 books that he wrote.
I did want to say that the Pueblo of Zuni does have a very nice museum. And if you ever get over there, make sure you go to that museum. It's kind of hard to find.
Yeah. It's across the village, across from what is the Halona Plaza. It is basically tucked behind a family home. And this is where a lot of this mural that we showed, where the people went north and south with that's an actual large mural. This was just a photo that we took with rights and of course agreement to the artist actually allowed me to use this, and this and many others are there. And then well, one thing I forgot to, well, I don't mention on this, but you'll also find a fragment of a mastodon jaw, a mandible fragment of a mastodon, which was located 2 minutes south of our village. Some years back during my archaeological days, we took this mandible jaw along with projectile points, Clovis points that were used to bring down this very beast. We had paleontologists, 5 paleontologists assess this mandible jaw. Of the 5, 4 of them declared that this was one of the first mammals that had debuted after the dinosaur some 150 to 120,000 years ago. And this was hunted down by our ancestors who were already habitating within the Zuni area. And so you'll find that, and a lot of the artifacts that are displayed there are from 20th century excavation of the Hendricks and Hodge excavation of Hawiku in 1917 to 1923. Those are the exhibits that are there. And a lot of other later documentations, how the boarding school happened, and many others that are of Zuni. And so that is there, the museum, and it is a nice little museum. Yeah.
Do you know the whole 6 hours of the prayer?
In due sense, yeah. I did. Well, there's a 6-hour prayer, and then there is a 2.5-hour prayer. And the 6-hour long prayer comes from our deity of our priest of time, which is the Longhorn, and he's the only one that kind of talks about this and prays about this. But it is from our Kiva societies, which there are 6 that have the Shalako deity god. Many young men who want to step into what is the Zuni religious hierarchy will represent one of these 6 kivas, and this is where those teachings of prayers will be taught on to these individuals over the course of a calendar year. And so in due sense, yeah, it is known. All right.
Well, that was a fantastic
All right.
presentation.
Okay.
And if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and end this session.
All right.
And